Hey guys, welcome back to an episode of the Nicocast. Today, I'm here with Alex. He kind of blew up on TikTok by making TikToks about the U.S. national team. So, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Alex. I'm from Chicago. I've lived a couple places, but I've just been a soccer fan my whole life, specifically Chelsea and the U.S. national team. So, yeah.
Great. How did you get into TikTok?
So I didn't really do TikTok at all then when there was quarantine, end of March, beginning of April, then I decided to. I used to have a page on Instagram that I did memes basically,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'll just test out TikTok to make video memes.
Mm-hmm.
And my first video got 30,000 views, so I was
Wow.
like, well, you know what, this is actually something I could do. So I just started doing that during quarantine, and then here we are.
Was it like football memes or like just like overall
Yeah,
memes?
it was specifically MLS U.S. national team. Yeah, back in last fall. The page doesn't exist anymore, but it was 2019 fall, 2020 mostly.
Was the first TikTok like you showing your face or like was it just like
Nah, the first one was
photos
just
and memes?
like, I don't know if you know, in the Gold Cup, Zardes scored a goal with his face. It just kind of bounced off his face. It was literally just that, and I put a sound on it, and it got like 30,000 views.
Really?
Not bad for a first video, so yeah.
Wow. That's 30,000 views in your first video. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, I think I just got lucky there.
How did you go from like posting like that to like your face and like kind of like, oh, the U.S. youngsters, U.S. has the best fullbacks. How do you go from that to
Yeah.
what
So,
you're doing
obviously 2020, I think that was a really big year. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening for U.S. soccer. Since I was a
Definitely.
U.S. soccer page, I was like, well, when Pulisic started scoring goals a lot in the Premier League, and I just started doing videos, just kind of whatever. If I saw a trend and I was like, well, I could find a way to adapt this to U.S.
Mhm.
soccer, I decided, well, I may as well do it. And I think part of that is U.S. soccer is kind of struggling to reach out to a younger audience, even with the
Mhm.
exciting times that we're in right now. U.S. soccer is kind of struggling, and I think TikTok is a way
Yeah.
to reach out to a lot of the younger generation. So I'm trying to help that I can be a part of that and introduce some of these players to the younger generation who might not follow U.S. soccer, even if they like soccer.
Yeah, because I just knew who like Des was, and I knew some other American players, but I didn't know they were American, which was like, oh, he's American. But like players like Josh Sargent, I obviously knew he was American because he's like my go-to player on FIFA for a small club. So yeah, kind of thanks to the U.S. football creators, soccer, I've known that more players are American, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in your videos, you make some statements about the U.S. national team that get people really mad. How do you like kind of deal with that, with the hate that you get from those videos?
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes you exaggerate a little bit. Sometimes you say stuff just to see what the reaction is. Sometimes you can just laugh at it, like people are saying stuff that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm not really affected by it. I know some people are, but I just think a lot of the time it's just funny to see the reactions.
Same.
Some people get so triggered by the most simple things.
Yeah, like I just love when you reply to someone, like if it's like with a video, like or like with the comment section. It's just so funny to like see them argue.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, sometimes I just make the video. I don't look at TikTok for like 3 hours, and I just scroll through the comments and just either just laugh at it or just like, you know, play into the joke, make funny reactions. Yeah. So sometimes I play into it, like I exaggerate
Yeah.
myself. But yeah, it depends.
Definitely, they're all like really funny. If I was actually thinking of like starting a Mexico like soccer football page, kind of like you do, and kind of like not attack, but like just see how the USA football fans like react. I feel like that'll be funny.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned, U.S. soccer has struggled to reach out to the younger generation.
Definitely.
So I think it wouldn't be quite the same.
Yeah.
I just think that I think that's what we're trying to do. I mean, there's a couple other people who are trying to do the same thing, just trying to introduce it to a bunch of other people. Whereas for Mexico, it's already an established presence. It has a bigger fan base at the moment. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
I definitely agree that he has a lot of bigger fan base, and thanks to TikTok, there's like, I'm not sure if you know him. There's this podcast that's called the Ladcast, and they interview like football players in England and Europe, and it's actually really interesting. And it's just good to see that finally the U.S. is getting more recognition from their great players, coming from Mexico fan, which most Mexican supporters won't like admit to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they're doing, talking to a lot of young prospects as well from the US, it's good to introduce some of these people, because maybe there's people like me who are really into following a lot of prospects. And I can tell you a lot of like U17, U20 players, but most people don't know that. If we can get ordinary people who are just scrolling through TikTok, introduce them to some of these players, there you go. You're introducing it to a wider audience. I think that's what me and what a lot of other people are trying to do on social media.
Yeah. And I feel like, let's say you get like from a country that doesn't get into the World Cup. I feel like thanks to these creators, like those people might start supporting like maybe the US or like different countries that have supporters that post on TikTok, kind of like you.
Yeah, I mean, we missed one World Cup, and
everyone starts attacking you.
In the grand scheme of things, that's not a huge deal.
The
World Cup, England have missed World Cups, France, Netherlands, even
Mexico.
But what that does is that, say you're in the US, and in the US there's such a diverse set of cultures and people. Maybe you're growing up and you don't see the US on TV in the World Cup. That has a big impact in that generation of about 3-4 years. Maybe, oh shoot, the US isn't here, my country's not here, I'm gonna go root for my mom's country, I'm gonna go root for my grandfather. And there's way too many people, I think, that they've lived their entire lives in the US, and for all intents and purposes they're American, but they don't support the national team because they don't think it's good enough. And even though that's changing, there's just an outdated image of the national team as just a small team. Not making the World Cup didn't help that. And now
they can definitely, I feel like they can kind of compete with some of like the bigger national teams, because like they've got some amazing players, kind of like Pulisic, McKinney. Like, what do you think on like those American players going to Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I put up a video, I think it was last night, I don't know if you saw it, but Pulisic going to Dortmund and excelling at Dortmund and later at Chelsea, that just had a huge knock-on effect. That just showed that players can come from America and be talented. McKinney then, and he signs for Juve and starts doing well for Juve. Now Serie A teams are interested. They're going to MLS. Juventus, AC Milan, Roma, they're all looking at MLS now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just one player, that's all it takes, can have a huge impact, have a huge effect. So I just think, it's all down to Pulisic, and then we're seeing it in Italy now with McKinney, and we might see it in other countries. We're going to probably see it in Spain now too.
Definitely.
With
Dest, and I think his name is like Conrad de la Fuente.
Yeah, so Dest and Yunus Musa, they didn't actually come up through the U.S. system, but I still think the fact that they're associated with the U.S., it's just La Liga is already looking at North America. La Liga is already partnering with MLS, already partnering with MLS academies. Barcelona already has academies in the U.S., including in Arizona. So, I mean, I just think the success of just one or two players can just have a huge knock-on effect and really open the eyes of some of the European teams and leagues. Yeah,
and like, also, Matthew Hope in the Bundesliga, he's like, I think 5 goals in 3 games or something, which was insane.
Yeah, I think the Arizona Barcelona Academy in particular, there's been a lot of guys who have come through there. Not only Hoppy, but
definitely
Araujo at the Galaxy, who's probably going to go to Europe this summer. Caden Clark, who's going to go to Leipzig. Bryce Duke of the LAFC. Plenty of others. Just that academy on its own. And when you see more and more of that coming, like Roma just launched something in New York. and you're just going to see more of that in the next couple of years.
And it's not only those Europe academies in the US, it's also academies like FC Dallas, which, are actually a really good academy.
Yeah, I think, honestly, in my opinion, the best thing to happen to US soccer since the 1994 World Cup was the creation of the Development Academy in 2007. Obviously, the DA doesn't exist. It's been replaced by MLS next. But after 2007, you see academies popping up that are really, really strong. Dallas is the big one, but we've got Philadelphia, Salt Lake, LA Galaxy, Red Bull, and they're all producing players now that we've never seen before.
Exactly.
And that's all the academies, the increased investment. And they're the reason that we're seeing so much, because the development academies popping up around North America that we didn't really have before.
Yeah, and I think kind of like thanks to Inter Miami, more people put their eyes on the MLS, because like David Beckham is starting a team in Miami. Oh, he probably saw kind of something in the MLS that made him want to start a team in that league.
So the reason he started Miami, I don't know if you know this, it's because when he came to the Galaxy, it was part of the agreement when he came to the Galaxy that if you sign for the Galaxy, when you want, you can start your own MLS team. So when he started Miami, I think Miami is not necessarily going to, at the moment, it's kind of just signing older players like Higuain, Matuidi, Ryan Shawcross, Kieran Gibbs. But we've seen now what he's focusing on now is the academy. Edison Azcona has just been signed as a homegrown player. And I think that the money that can be generated by bringing in big stars, Schweinsteiger, Zlatan, Henry, all those guys over the years, that can generate money. That money can go back into the academies. And that's the model that a lot of teams are taking, and that is going to pay dividends over the next couple of years.
Yeah, talking about like big name players, like moving to the LS is like a retirement league. Like, why do you think they're choosing the MLS and not like a team in Asia? Like, why do you think
so I mean, China might offer more money, but would you rather live in Shanghai or Miami? Like,
Miami.
The US is an appealing place that a lot of people can live, and there's a lot of marketing. If you live in LA, maybe you want to start a film career, maybe you want to go on all the late night talk shows. Go to the Galaxy and you can do all that and earn a bunch of money playing soccer. I think that the retirement league image is kind of moving away from it. The focus is going away from signing a 35-year-old from the Premier League towards more, we're going to sign a 19-year-old from Argentina. I think that's the shift we're seeing. We're seeing, instead of going for older guys from Europe, young players from South America. And that's the Young Players Initiative that we're seeing for the under-22 players, which was just introduced this season for MLS. And
I feel like they choose the MLS because there is more competition than like Shanghai, like those teams in Asia and like Japan. Because definitely the US has a lot more competition than those teams, and they have some young players that they can learn from by playing with these big stars. Yeah, I mean, as we've seen, European teams are looking at MLS now. Brian Reynolds has 19 career MLS games, and it's being signed by one of the biggest teams in Italy. So if you're a young player, MLS is a very appealing prospect if you want to go to Europe. If you go to China, European scouts are not looking at China. That's just money. You're just going to get a bunch of money, and that's pretty much it. So I think living in like American cities like New York, LA, Seattle gives it a boost. That's one appealing factor, and just the growth of the league and the marketability and the European scouts. Definitely. So, like, who do you think is better, Messi or Ronaldo? I mean, for me, that's just really a hard comparison to make. If you ask me who I think is the overall better player, I'd probably say Messi. But I think they're just so hard to compare that like you can't definitively say that one is better than the other, because it depends on the metric you're using. They're both good at different things. Individual accolades, you might say Messi, but if you're going off of team accolades, it may be Ronaldo. And what kind of a role they had in the team. They've both pretty much carried their teams the last 2 years. So, I mean, they're both the two greatest players
at least of the last 2 generations. So without a doubt, they're both the 2 greatest. If you had to ask me to pick one, I'd say Messi. But again, there may be some bias there because in the Copa America, I got to see Messi play in person, and he scored a hat trick off the bench. He came on in the 60th minute. He scored 3 goals and got an assist.
Wow. And unlike,
I guess that's my experience with Messi. Maybe that's what puts him over the edge for me. I see how people could go either way, but yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, and like that's like 3 goals in a goal every 10 minutes, probably.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is like insane. And like if you were asking me, since I support Barca and Man United, and Ronaldo plays for Man United and Messi plays for Barcelona, I would like say Messi, but like they're very close. Like Ronaldo is better with. I feel like Ronaldo has won more team trophies, and Messi like normally wins the individual ones. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, Ronaldo has an international trophy. Messi doesn't. Not that that's the best metric of measuring anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ronaldo has an international trophy. Messi doesn't. Ronaldo has more Champions Leagues. But at the end of the day, if we're comparing the individual players, you can't just say so and so. Like Cazorla has won more international trophies than Messi. Like that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. And I think they're probably gonna win another one with like Portugal's amazing team.
We'll see.
I think they're gonna win like the Euros or something. Not the World Cup, I don't think. But yeah, like it's just saying Ronaldo is better because of one trophy. It's kind of like what?
I mean, he didn't even play most of the finals, so it's
exactly
hard to say that.
And Messi did play
in the tournament, to be honest, but
yeah. But Messi like played almost every game for Argentina and made it to the World Cup final.
And you could even say like, yeah, Messi missed a penalty in the Copa America final, so I mean that doesn't really matter though.
Lost like
again, you can't
2
take
Copa Americas.
one game. I don't think if you're comparing who's a better player, one game can't define that.
Yeah.
Like say hypothetically, if Argentina and Portugal were to face off in the World Cup, I'd love to see that happen. But a lot of people are going to be saying whoever wins this game is better. Like how can you say that? It's just one game. Anything can happen on the day.
And they both have had their like amazing moments. Like that Messi goal against like when he like trashed Boateng, and like the Ronaldo's bicycle kick against Juventus. They both have had equally the same amazing moments as each other.
Yep.
And if they face, Portugal is probably gonna win. Like Bruno, like João Felix. I think it would be unfair. In Argentina, they don't have that much defensive players. I feel like.
I mean, I think Messi's kind of been carrying Argentina for the last 15 years. Like, they're gonna really, really struggle without him. Like, when he had his brief international retirement after the Copa America, they looked very, very bad. They've been pretty bad without him. So I think post Messi, Argentina are gonna struggle a lot.
Do you think that like Argentina is gonna be like kind of the AC Milan of what's it called? National team football?
I guess you could say that. I mean, I think there's gonna be. I mean, they're gonna struggle. They might miss a World Cup. You know, they almost missed 2018. But I mean, with World Cup qualifying, especially with the 48-team World Cup, it's just gonna be kind of a lottery. I mean, Argentina I think there's gonna be 7 teams out of South America or something, so they should qualify regardless.
Exactly.
But I don't think they're gonna be a power. I don't think they're gonna be competing for a World Cup for a little while.
Yeah. I feel like they're gonna be like quarterfinals, round of 16, around that kind of space where Mexico has been for a while.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on the Champions League draw and that Messi and Ronaldo are not in the Champions League for like so long? First time in so long they have not been in the Champions League.
So I think what we're kind of seeing right now is kind of a passing of the torch from Messi and Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Who kind of, I mean, a lot of the focus is on Mbappe and Haaland, but we're going over the next couple of years. There's going to be a lot more. We'll see if Fati ever really comes back from the injury, but it could be him, it could be Pedri, Foden. There's just a lot of guys who are just like waiting in the wings. I don't think we're ever going to really see that duopoly like we saw in the last 10 years. I don't think we're ever really going to see that again.
Who do you think is going to like win the Champions League and like the predictions for the quarterfinals is going to pass?
I mean, obviously, as a Chelsea fan, I'd like us to win. I think there's definitely a chance we could. Definitely. I mean, I'm not gonna say too much about Chelsea, but there has been a lot of emphasis put on the fact that there are so many similarities between this season and the 2012 season that we won it before. But for real though, I think Man City are gonna win it. I just think that they should beat Dortmund relatively easily. Dortmund is a mess right now. And then the only other team like Bayern, I just don't see Bayern repeating it. I just think it's so hard for a team to repeat a competition like that. It's so rarely happens. Like Real Madrid are the only team to ever repeat the Champions League. Champions League. There's a reason for that. I think Man City are just such a deep team that over 2 legs, Man City will probably edge out Bayern. And I can see Man City win the Champions League this year. Man City's second team can probably like give Dortmund a chance to win. Oh, definitely, they can beat Dortmund for sure. It also depends on how good Haaland's day is, but I think regardless, Dortmund, ever since they sacked Lucien Favre, have just been a complete mess, and I do not see any way that Dortmund is going to beat Man City. I hope they do, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, I honestly think I think Chelsea are gonna make it through to the final because Liverpool have been bad, like losing against Burnley at home. Like what? Real Madrid kind of, well, you know what, they've been good, but not as good as like normally. So I think they definitely will be able to make it to the final. And I don't think Porto will win against Chelsea, so.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Porto, they had a good game plan against Juve. They exposed Juve's weaknesses. We'll see if they can expose Chelsea's weaknesses as well. But, I mean, I don't see a way that Porto wins that over 2 legs. Maybe they win the first leg at home, but I don't see them winning over 2 legs.
Yeah, same. So, like, what do you think the final is going to look like? City versus
Chelsea, I would say.
Obviously same.
Well, first of all, there's going to be a lot of people in England who are going to be very, very angry at the fact that it's going to be the 2 oil teams playing each other. But I mean, I think they'll be a lot closer than the game we played against City 3 months ago. But I just don't. I mean, we've been very, very good defensively. I think I can see us losing 2-1, 1-0, but you know, I think we can definitely do it. Like 2012, no one thought we were gonna win. We were huge underdogs. We'd finished 6th in the league, and then we won in Munich. So I think anything can happen on the day, and that goes for pretty much any tournament. Anything can happen on the day. So especially when it's a one-off.
Yeah. I would like to see Paris in the final, but I just feel like with City, I don't think it's gonna happen. But I feel like this happens every year. People are gonna say City is gonna win it, and then they just go out.
Yeah.
But I feel like this year is the year they're probably gonna win it.
Yeah, I think Man City have just been so good this year. They've just been so consistent ever since they've gained their form toward the end of the fall. They've just been unstoppable, and I honestly don't really see any team in the world giving them much of a challenge at the moment, other than Bayern.
Probably, yeah. So, who do you think is like the best youngster, like across all the leagues
in the world? I mean,
in your opinion.
My opinion. So if we're gonna go out of the 18-year-olds, there's a lot of 18-year-olds. I think Ansu Fati probably is the best of that group, but
Definitely.
The thing is, he's having an injury, and there are some reports that he might not even be able to play for like quite some time. So if you take that aside, I think out of the 18-year-olds, I think it's between Camavinga and Gio Reyna. I mean, both of them
Yeah.
have really been. Both of them have had dips in form as well, of course,
Mhm.
any young player. But I just think that Gio Reyna. I'll talk about him because I've been following him for quite some time. He's got so much talent. He has all the tools he needs to be one of the best players in the world. I mean, if you think of a player, you want to build the perfect player. You think of a guy whose both parents played soccer internationally. They were both U.S. internationals, and very successful ones as well. He has the opportunity to live in England, and has the European passport to move to Germany at 16, and can go straight into the Dortmund first team, and has had some really, really good teammates to work with.
Yeah.
System that really fits him. You want to build the perfect scenario for a player. You're building Gio Reyna.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if he can meet his potential, if he can remain relatively injury-free over the next couple of years, I think he can definitely be one of the top 10 players in the world. And look, if the U.S. makes a really deep run in 26,
he will be considered on that list.
He could win the Ballon d'Or. That's one of my unpopular opinions. A lot of people like to talk about that. I said Gio Reyna could win the Ballon d'Or. It's like the Ballon d'Or, the two most important things are who won the Champions League and who won the World Cup.
Yeah.
And if the US can do well in the World Cup and he wins the Champions League, it's really not impossible.
I feel like if he gets a couple assists and a couple goals, USA make it to the quarterfinals or the semifinals, Dortmund probably to the final or even win it, he's gonna probably be considered one of the top players to win it. But I think
Luka Modric won the Ballon d'Or. He played for Real Madrid. He was a starter, but he wasn't the standout player on that team. But he won the Champions League and then dragged Croatia to the World Cup final. Say Gio Reyna goes to Real Madrid or something, or Man City. Those are the two places he's probably most likely to go, and just performs really well and they win the Champions League, and then we do really well in the World Cup. I can definitely see Gio Reyna winning it. Mm-hmm. I am totally taking this as an opportunity to defend one of my most unpopular opinions. But yeah.
No, yeah, I feel like that season, a player from North America and Central America is gonna win the Ballon d'Or that season. Either it's Alphonso Davies, which just had kind of a dip on form. But yeah, it's either him or Edson Alvarez. No, I'm joking. But yeah, it's gonna be one of the North American players who's gonna win it that season. I feel
I can definitely see that happening.
So, talking about the World Cup, what are your predictions for the next two World Cups? Especially USA, Canada, and Mexico.
Yeah, so for the 22 World Cup, we'll start with that. I mean, there's just so many teams that, other than France, who I think it's impossible to repeat a World Cup. I don't think that'll ever happen again. But I think there's just so many teams that are not that far apart. It's just so hard to, without knowing the draw, without knowing who's qualified, without seeing what the squads are going to be like, without really having any idea for a lot of those factors, it's just so hard to know who's going to win it. I mean, I think Belgium definitely are in the conversation. I think Brazil are in the conversation.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's so hard to tell. It's still 2 years away almost. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, how's the mid-season? Players are going to be in mid-season form. It's going to be in November, December.
Oh yeah.
Like in the summer, where the players just had their seasons. They are more likely to be
rested.
Sometimes players are missing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, there's all kinds of factors that come in. It's a completely different set of factors that are going to come in when it's in the winter. So we'll just have to wait and see how those factor in as well. Yeah,
definitely. I feel like England has a chance at this season, the next World Cup, because again, with Rice, Mason Mount, Foden, probably have a chance. Portugal, I feel like I'm talking too much about Portugal. But Portugal again, because of Bruno, Semedo, Neves, Pedro Neto, Joao Felix, they're probably gonna have a chance. Ronaldo, and yeah, Belgium. I don't think Belgium. I don't know why. I feel like Hazard is probably not gonna come back to his normal form.
Yeah.
Bruno probably is still gonna be a top player by then, but Lukaku probably still gonna be.
I think the thing with England, that a lot of people, misunderstand is that there was this so-called English golden generation in the early 2000s. And obviously,
They won nothing.
a lot of people will point at, you see a golden generation, they say the same thing, look what happened to England. Well, what happened with England is that these players are like Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard, and Frank Lampard. I'll just use those three as an example.
All three different teams.
They're all playing for Chelsea, Man United, and Liverpool, and they're all fighting for the title. Their rivalries from club teams would kind of roll over into the national team. And if you want to get your best players on the field, you have to deal with that.
With chemistry.
Yeah, so I think that the current English generation, the jury's still out if they're gonna meet that challenge or not. If they're gonna be able to blend together as a group, or if they're gonna have to struggle with the same problems that the previous golden generation dealt with.
Yeah, but I feel like this generation of English players have a better chance. Like, obviously, like, that England team was really good, but I don't know who said it, but they like sat all the different tables. Like, the Chelsea players on one table, the United players on one table, which I'm imagining that probably happened. But just with the friendlies, I've seen they've been playing pretty good. And the players like Mason Mount, they've also been doing good, and like the individual players have been doing good.
Yeah. I mean, so I think if we're going to go back to that topic of the rivalries, like, you can now see, like, I'm just going to use the U.S. as an example because I know it very well. Greg Berhalter and the coaches have been doing a very, very good job at building a group of people, not just players, a group of people, and blending them together. And now they're all in the WhatsApp group. They're always interacting with each other. They're always commenting on social media. You didn't really see that in England that much before. Yeah. And I think England are improving with that. I mean, you're seeing Greenwood.
They played in the youth academy together.
Friends, Mount and Rice. Like, you're seeing some friendships come out in the England camp.
Yeah.
So I think we're definitely improving on that front. But I think the social media and a lot more of the interconnectedness is going to really help national teams form more of what I said as more of a group, and not a group of players, but a group of people.
And a couple of them played together in the youth national team, the academy. I'm pretty sure. So that might help a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of them came up through Chelsea's academy. A lot of them came up through City's academy. That definitely helps. They do know each other very well. I think if you want to have a successful national team, one of the very most important things is having a group that knows each other well, because the national team isn't going to come together like the clubs. You're together 40 weeks of the year. You're training almost every day. With the national team, you're together maybe 5-6 weeks, entire year, and it's spread out throughout different bits and parts of the year. So it's really, really hard to form a team. And if you have people that know each other, that have played with each other, that's why teams like Spain succeeded. They all played with each other. That's why teams like Germany.
Most of them played for Barca.
So, that's one of the key ingredients for success. Have a group of people, players who know each other and have played together.
Yeah. So, who do we think is gonna win? Let's just get a set prediction.
If I had to make one prediction, I'd say Belgium. I mean, I just think that they got to the semifinals last time. They got to the quarterfinals the time before that. Now they have a lot more tournament experience than they did before. And I think that's going to be really, really big for them. I think Belgium, if I had to pick one, would be the winner of the next World Cup.
For me,
do you want to talk about the 26 a bit as well? Oh, who did you say? What did you say?
Yeah, so my predictions, either England or Brazil.
Brazil? See, I definitely think, you mentioned 26. I think Brazil are going to win it in 26.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's just, I know they won it last time it was in the U.S., but I think Brazil are going to win it in 26. There's just something about Brazil playing in the U.S. They just have always been so good playing here. I can definitely see Brazil winning in 26. Now, other teams that are in conversation, it's really, really hard to say 6 years out. But
yeah.
Netherlands, I know they've not been very good lately, but I think they
didn't qualify for the World Cup.
Set of young players. I think Spain are in that conversation. I think Italy are maybe in that conversation. Of course, England. I mean, you have to say the U.S. at home. Anything can happen, and the U.S. have traditionally overperformed when playing at home. So that's definitely something to take into account as well.
And I feel like teams like Mexico I feel like Mexico is definitely gonna do pretty well in that World Cup. Because I feel like one of the games is in Estadio Azteca, and most of the Mexican players have already played there.
I think playing at Azteca, playing at I believe it's going to be Estadio Akron. I think that playing in Mexico for Mexico is going to be a huge advantage. I mean, teams go down to Mexico and they don't win. Like, it's really, really hard to win in Mexico away. And I think playing World Cup games is going to be a huge advantage. You've got the altitude, you've got the thinner air, you've got obviously the huge crowds. I think, Mexico is probably one of the top 3 hardest stadiums to win in. Up there with Honduras, Bolivia, like it's just a really hard place to win.
Yeah. When I went to Mexico City, like, I was okay for one day, and the next day I was like, headaches, everything, just because of the altitude. Compared to where I live, where like the beach is like over there.
Right.
And definitely there's gonna be tons of Mexico fans, and just like the Mexico fans are like these things they do that like kind of annoy other national teams. They have like a thing where like how they did with Germany, like they start singing a song when they like won against Germany.
Yeah.
And tons of other things, like when the keeper does a kick, like they like say like like a bad word and something.
I don't know if you saw, but FIFA's actually investigating that starting today.
I think it's okay. It's like
starting
a
an
tradition.
investigation into it. I mean, I'll just give you my brief take on it because I was reading about it earlier. I mean, I think that there's got to be some sort of punishment for it, even if the intention of it is not harmful. The word has homophobic origins. So I think if you want to set a precedent, that you don't want to have this stuff. Like, you can do all you want with rainbow laces or all these campaigns, but if you don't actually do anything about it to make sure there is no homophobia in football, and this goes for all sorts of things, if you don't take any action, it's not going to stop anything. And
definitely.
Even just the chant, it sets a bad precedent when there are more serious things that do happen.
Something similar happened when the chant that was like understand, it's like a song that FIFA was like also like investigating or something. And I feel like even though if they might stop it, there are still going to be some fans that are still going to do it, and that's a word a lot of Mexicans say, so it's probably not going to stop them. It will stop some of them, but not all of them.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just have to see what happens. Like, there's probably going to be some sort of decision, preliminary decision, probably in the next couple of days. But I just think we'll just have to see over the next couple of months what FIFA decides to do, what kind of action they decide to take. But, I mean, I don't think that the players should be punished. It's not their fault.
Yeah, it's not their fault.
I think if anything has to happen, and I think not to harm the team too much, like maybe they have to play behind closed doors for a little bit. Maybe they get some games taken away from them at the World Cup. Who knows? But it's not the players' fault. But I think if you want to set a precedent, you have to take some sort of action.
Definitely. While we're on the topic of like Mexico versus US, there was what was your opinion on the Mexico versus USA game?
Wednesday. So, I mean, to be honest, I know a lot of people are gonna roll their eyes when I say this, but this is far from our best possible team. Like, this is very, very. It's not quite Mexico's best U23s.
Exactly.
But maybe they're missing Alvarez, Lainez, Montes,
Lozano.
But it's very, very close to their best possible U23 team. So for the US, we're dealing with 3rd, 4th, 5th string players. So I think it really, really says a lot that even if it's a B or a C, even if it's a B team for Mexico, the fact that our 4th and 5th string players can go down to Guadalajara and compete with that team, that says a lot. Obviously, it would have been nice to win or at least get a draw, but I think there were a lot of positives to take from that game. And I think if we're gonna point out one positive, David Ochoa. Honestly, I think he's got such a high upside, and he plays with a lot of heart and passion.
Yeah.
He's dealing with a lot of hate the last couple of days, but I mean, I think it's great. I think he's just going to be such an amazing goalkeeper, and I can't wait till a couple of years down the line when he's going to hopefully be the starting goalie for our national team.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped. And I feel like not all the U.S. players play with like passion, like with Ochoa, but like all the like 90% of the Mexican players play with that passion. So that might be one of the reasons they won. But like Antuna's goal was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with his goal, a lot of that is going to come down to Sebastian Soto, just giving the ball away. Obviously, you don't want to have a poacher in that position. I don't know what he's doing, but I feel like that's a one-off mistake. It happens to everyone, but it was a nice finish. And for Mexico, I'm sure there's a lot of positive takeaways as well. Some of those players on this team have been really, really impressive to me. If you want to name a few, Sebastian Cordova's been really good. Antuna was really, really good. Alvarado has been pretty good. So I mean, we'll just have I think there's a lot of good players coming out of Mexico, but I think if the best possible US U23 team played that game, if we're talking Pulisic, Robinson, Dest, McKennie, if we had all those guys there, I think we would have wiped the floor. But you can only play who's available, and one on the day, and it is what it is.
No, I think with Mexico, if like the U.S. national team versus the Mexican A national team, I feel like it'd be close because like Jimenez, Corona, like.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about the U23 team, like if we're talking about the best possible U23s, like for the U.S.,
probably
the best possible U23s are also the best players. So they're all in the senior team. Whereas for Mexico, it's kind of mixed. Like the national team is different ages. Whereas for the U.S., there's really only like 3 or 4 players in the senior national team who are over 23, which is kind of weird. But I think it really just shows how successful the DA has been, how successful the academies have been, that the players who have come out of those academies are just so much better than the players before. So, yeah.
Yeah, also, just like, I feel like if only like maybe like Dest was playing in that game, I feel like he would have made a small difference, kind of.
Julian Araujo didn't have his best game at right back, but I think Dest is, I mean, obviously, I think if you look at our first team, it's just a huge improvement on the group of players who are out there. But yeah, it's not even that bad of a group. I just don't think that I don't think too many players from this U23 tournament are ever really going to play for the senior national team. Ochoa will, maybe Soto, maybe Sam Vines, maybe Julian Araujo, but
most of them are already playing.
Most of them are just guys who are going to play this tournament, maybe get on the Olympic team should we qualify, maybe be a depth piece here and there. But this is just so far from our best possible young players that it's just hard to really take too much away from it.
Yeah, definitely. If they was playing with the national team, they probably might have won, probably a draw. But with like the current Mexico, and I feel like the fact that Carlos Vela is doesn't really care about football anymore. If he actually started caring about it and Mexico with the A team, obviously they would have had a bigger chance. And if players Linus was on form and playing, probably would have done well. Yeah.
I mean, I think Carlos Vela is the best Mexican player right now. It's just a shame that he plays in MLS and doesn't really care about the national team. And I think he's the most talented player Mexico has probably had in the last 20 years. It's just a shame for Mexico that he doesn't really have much interest in playing for the country or playing outside MLS. And
with Chicharito, he is a really good player, but I feel Twitch and he's also a Twitch streamer now. And there was this meme of Mexico's players with Corona, Linus, and then there was a guy in the comments, Chicharito with the sniper. It was it was the funniest thing. But if players like Javier Hernandez and Vela were actually serious, well, they obviously are serious, but were at their best, and with the USA's current team at the best, it would have been a very good game.
For sure. I mean, I think the biggest difference between the US and Mexico right now is in the coaching department. Greg Berhalter has done some great stuff as a coach. He's got some huge players to commit to the U.S., but the thing is, he's not the best in-game coach, and his tactics are not quite there. Tata Martino is one of the best coaches in the world.
Yeah.
So I think for right now for Mexico, that is a huge foot up. And I think
They just need a better coach.
You go position by position, the U.S. is better in almost every position as an individual player. But the team hasn't had that much time together, and the coaching for Mexico is just so much better at the moment.
And yeah, like some positions may be better, but there are some positions. Let's say USA probably wins that goalkeeper. The attack is like mixed, I would say.
I think the attack is really hard to judge because if you're looking at left wing, just as an example, Pulisic and Lozano are both so hot and cold players, both of them, that it's
both have like.
They one is to fit. I think Pulisic has a lot more ability, but he's not that consistent. Lozano isn't that consistent either. He's just been better recently. Tecatito hasn't been in that strong of a league, to be honest. So it's just hard to compare. It's hard to compare a lot of these players who are either so hot and cold or inconsistent, or they're not playing in similar leagues, or they're not playing in that position. It's just some of those players are hard to compare. But I think if you went one by one, like center backs, the U.S. is probably better. Right back, left back, all three midfielders, goalkeeper. The U.S. is better in all those positions. I think.
No, midfielder.
The front line can go here and there, but I'd say like the midfield, the fullbacks, at least one of the center backs, and the goalkeeper. The U.S. is stronger.
Yeah, I feel like Edson Alvarez would probably be like one of the midfielders, and the rest of the midfield would probably be the U.S.
I'd say Tyler Adams as a 6 is one of the most underrated players. And I think he's better than Alvarez, but I think that could go both ways. So, yeah.
I feel like one of the reasons why a lot of people prefer the U.S. players is because they're playing for a lot bigger clubs. Like Lozano's at Napoli.
Tyler Adams, just as an example, since we're talking about that position, he plays for the second place team in the Bundesliga. He's a lock-in starter, whether as a 6 or as a right wing back. He's a lock-in starter for them, and they're one of the best teams in Europe right now. And they got to a Champions League semifinal, and he was a big part of that. So I think that's definitely a factor. But if I don't think you can really say that a player who doesn't even start every game in the Eredivisie is better than a player who has such an important role for one of the best teams in the world.
Definitely. No, yeah, I feel like Tyler Adams, I feel like it would probably, if it feels like, they would be like, if the U.S. and Mexico would like combine into one nation, I feel like it would be like every other game Edson Alvarez would play, or something. But
I guess it really depends on what kind of a system you're looking at, but different types of players as well. But yeah,
exactly. Like it's like comparing Pulisic at left wing, and Tecatito at like right wing or something, like right back. It's kind of like
And I mean, Tecatito, I mean, he's been good, but he doesn't really have one position. He's kind of bouncing all over the place.
And he's not playing for the biggest club, which is kind of like bringing him down.
It's hard to compare a player who's excelling in a smaller league at different positions
in a bigger league.
To a player who is playing consistently at one of the best teams in the world. It's just kind of hard to compare. But, I mean, I think I would generally go with the player who is showing it in a bigger league. So I would say that, like, say Gio Reyna, when he was, maybe not right now because he's out of form, but when he was starting every game under Favre and getting assists regularly and scoring goals, I think he was probably one of the better players
100%.
in the U.S. team. It's just young players, they go up and down. They have hot and cold.
Yeah.
It happens to every young player. So it's just hard to look at someone's stats over the last 3 months and say they're bad because they haven't scored in 3 months. Like, there's so many factors, especially when you're talking about young players.
Yeah, and it's not only young players that have like dip in forms. Like Messi has kind of dipped from the start of the season. Now he's kind of back in form. Joao Felix was a young player. Started off pretty bad and now is like almost scored a bicycle kick and has been doing pretty good. But I feel like Joao Felix kind of made a bad decision going to Atletico. It's because they're a very defensive team. That's why he's not doing as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if if you're a creative 10 type player, Atletico Madrid is not the place to go. But I think João Felix is a great player, but I think a team that's as defensive as Atletico, that doesn't really emphasize building up in the attack, that's more of a hit it up to Suarez and see what he can do with it. I mean, it's not really a kind of a system that fits him, but he's still excelling in it, and that just speaks to his ability and how good he is.
Yeah, definitely. So before we end, do you have any advice for anyone who's like wanted to start TikTok in the football niche?
Yeah, I'd say for TikTok, you just gotta be consistent. And what I've been doing, back when I did my Instagram meme page, and when I've done TikTok, just try different things out, see what you like, see what people like, see how people react to it, and just see what does well. Like with the memes, I can try different types of formats and all that, and see what does better, what people like, what I enjoy doing. Like for a long time, TikTok was just, this is what I enjoy doing. This is the kind of video I want to make. It's not necessarily going to blow up every time, but if you're doing it for fun, just do what you enjoy. Like I like just talking about my favorite team, talking about the players I'm really excited about, trying to introduce them to a younger audience. That's something I want to do. I'll just try to find creative ways to do that. So yeah, just do what you enjoy, try out different things, and just focus on what interests you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like doing what you like or what you love is very important, because people see that you're doing something you love. People are gonna see, oh, he's doing something he likes, so I'll follow him, or something like that. Maybe not, but like, yeah. Anyways, before we end, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Do you have anything you want to promote?
Yeah, so you can follow my TikTok at Calashuayi, and then my Twitter is at amcalabrese12. So yeah,
I'll be in the description.
Those are the two places I'd say if you want to follow me. Those are the best places to do that.
If you want to follow him, all of his socials will be in the description down below. But anyways, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I'll see you next episode of the Nicocast.